Why does Nev load uneven weights in the squat bar? That was one time, Grace. It was one time.
That's all it takes, Nev. Just one time.
We're moving on. I was distracted. I was distracted by how effective my programming has been for you, Grace, and seeing your numbers fly up so much. I was like, surely it can't be that much weight, and maybe that's why it was misloaded. All right, sorry for making you so damn strong. But remember, Leo, I've said to you many times before, abs in a... I am cutting that out because that is totally inappropriate.
I was just going to say, so inappropriate. Oh my God.
I might keep it in and just bleep out the second half. There you go. But it's not 14.9. Megan, thank you very much. This is coming from the lady. This is coming from Megan.
Well, hey now, don't get upset for questions.
I am getting upset because I'm not 14.9.
Don't get upset
look,
for questions.
yeah, look.
You hurt his feelings, Megan. You hurt his feelings.
So much stuff to talk about.
Are we on?
Welcome back to the Big Flex, everybody.
Welcome back, everybody.
We are doing question time number 3 today.
Yeah, questions and answers. This is a fun podcast. I really liked the last time we did.
Yeah,
we did this one. It was good fun.
We put the bat signal out to get some questions, and we got quite a few.
Yeah, a lot.
So we're going to start going through those right now. All right?
You're just going to jump straight in?
You want to jump straight? Well, first, no. Subscribe. If you haven't done already, subscribe. We are going up.
Like and subscribe.
We are up to 257 subscribers. We're over a quarter of the way to 1,000, which is fantastic. Yeah. Remember, at 1,000 subs, we are going to do 1,100 kilo squats between us. It's going to become a fundraiser. We're going to donate all the proceeds to a worthy cause. Yeah. In addition to that, we almost have our first video that's going to reach the 10,000 view mark. It is a scap pull-up tutorial video that seemed to go really well on the recommendeds on YouTube.
It's went crazy.
And,
not sure why in comparison to all the other ones.
It's good. Go and have a watch. Give it a I'll actually link it. I'll link it. And then go watch it and give it a thumbs up. It's actually like 250 or 220 likes and like 1 thumbs down. I'm like, hey.
1 thumbs down.
Yeah. And I was like, you know what?
Be honest, was it you?
No, it wasn't me. I can give all of our videos thumbs up. And we're actually getting quite a few like comments in there too. Like, hey, I'm not feeling this, I'm feeling that. Like I'm getting cracks or this and that. You know, should I be rotated? All these things. It's great. And I'm trying my best to answer them all. So that's kind of cool too. And for the 10,000, when it does tick over 10,000, it's like 8,500 now or something. When it gets over 10,000 views.
10,000 scap pull-ups?
No, 10,000 kilograms worth of chin-ups. So for you at 82 is roughly like 120, and me at around 100. If I drop weight, it's going to be somewhere between like 100 and 110 chin-ups for me. And we're going to film that for you for your enjoyment. So that will be a fun little one for that.
That will be. It'll be good fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah. So to questions. Question time number 3.
Jump straight in. So
yeah.
First question.
First question came from Jess. And it was, how come one week I feel really strong and I get good numbers, and then the next week I don't feel strong? I feel like just weaker. And sometimes like my numbers go down a little bit. And there are a number of reasons for that. I guess the first thing you have to do is to all right, what creates a good like positive training atmosphere, like, or not atmosphere, like an environment that's good to have strong gains in.
Yeah.
All right. 1, you need to be well rested. 2, you need to be well fueled. And 3, you need to have a good positive attitude towards the lift.
I think there's definitely a 4th. There's so many factors that factor into this. But definitely a 4th. If you're talking about the environment, it's the actual environment itself, like the coach or the people you're training with as well, and their attitude. Yeah. Because you train with other people sometimes, and they're just low and mopey, and it brings you down. It's all about the mental positivity. It makes a big difference. Yeah.
So there are a few things that we can break down and look at. And the first thing is, and I know this for a fact because she has youngest child, is that she doesn't get a lot of good sleep. And sleep is huge for recovery and for feeling fresh, right? Yeah. So first thing she's talking about, I'm going to get in 5 hours. Get you 8 hours, all right? I know it's easier said than done, but aim for 8. And that's going to help a lot with feeling fresher when you get into the gym. 2, make sure you're eating all the right foods so that you're properly well fueled by the time you need to lift, all right? Mm-hmm. And then the other thing is coming to the gym with positive. She's always positive in the gym. I'm her coach. I'm positive, I like to think, most of the time. So I don't think that's the issue. I think that one thing that is also an issue is fatigue, right? So you got to look at fatigue management. And she's training for the GPC States right now, and we've had a few heavy weeks. And because she's actually going away for a week and a half, she's not had the regular deload weeks. She's about to 10-day deload week, or just shy of 2 weeks of a deload, and then she's back for 1 week of training and then one more deload leading into the comp. So it's a little disjointed. So we pushed out our heavy work an extra week or two. So I don't know if she means specifically the last 2 weeks she's been feeling pretty rough, because she's still getting all-time PB on deadlift this morning, all-time PB on squat earlier in the week. It's her bench press last week got an all-time PB, this week couldn't get up there, right? So so there is that cumulative fatigue factor, and she has pushed out a little bit longer in this prep without getting the deload, because she's getting a longer deload soon. So there are some reasons why you might feel weak. But, as long as you're getting the sleep, getting the good food in, coming in with a positive attitude, ready to really attack your session, and managing your fatigue, things should hopefully go in the right direction.
Yeah. I think exactly the same thing. Everything you touched on then was pretty much spot on. You have to have your head in the game, essentially. When people say have your head in the game, you're going to be doing all the right stuff. I have a really good week and I eat really well. And I go out on the weekend, drink, eat some crap, and then I try and come in on Monday and get a good session out, and it's just going to be garbage because I've got a whole bunch of crap in my system. I'm tired, I'm fatigued, didn't sleep as well, literally slower because of the alcohol. All of that stuff factors in as well. So it really just depends on, the positive attitude just goes, it extends on past what you're doing specifically in the gym, outside how you prepare for the gym. There's lots of different things that factor into that hour or two that you're actually at the gym.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's actually, we'll actually dive a little bit more into it, is that, I was looking at fatigue, because people talk about fatigue all the time, I'm feeling tired and this and that. And there's a few different types of fatigue. So you have social fatigue, physical fatigue, mental fatigue, pain fatigue. That's if you're getting a tattoo, you might be good for the first 3 hours, and after that, you just can't do it anymore. Yep. You have a fatigue to pain as well. There's chronic illness fatigue. What else we got up there? 1, 2, 3, there's 6, right? Chronic, mental, pain, physical, emotional, social, right? Yeah. So, physical we sort of touched on. Physical fatigue is probably physical and mental, I would say, would be and emotional for some people, but physical and mental would be the two biggest ones in the gym that you would see. And physical, we got a couple of different types, right? We got what we were talking about with you, Jess, where you get a peripheral fatigue, where your body is just tired, because you've been working for a long time, hard. And then there's also central nervous system fatigue, which is a little bit more serious, can take a little bit more time to recover from. And that's brain and spinal cord, and usually you get it when you're lifting really, really, really heavy.
So, for example, that's doing the reason why we have structured programming and structured deloads. If you try and lift the heaviest single rep every single time you come into the gym, eventually you'll hit a wall and then you'll go downhill really quickly, because your body can only handle so much. It needs time to rest and recover. Your central nervous system getting fatigued, you'll stop all progress, and it takes too much of a toll on your body. And central nervous system, I think CNS fatigue, that's something that not a lot of people get to. Not a lot of people actually push that hard. It's really quite tough.
Usually it's peripheral fatigue, which is why a deload week really freshens people up.
Yeah.
Central nervous system fatigue, if you really shatter yourself, it can take sort of weeks and weeks. Well, weeks and weeks to sort of recover from that. But again, one of the best things for that is sleep.
Yep.
All right, you got to get the sleep, and also you decrease your intensity a lot, and you'd get a lot of sleep in to sort of recover from those from the CNS fatigue.
Yeah.
Yep. And then if we're talking about in-session fatigue, so let's say you're starting strong and then you're just fizzling out real fast, you might have a metabolite depletion issue. So if we're talking about your creatine phosphate system, energy system, you need to have those metabolite substrates in your body to create energy. So for example, if you are on a carbohydrate-based diet, you're not in keto or anything, and you just not eating any carbs the night before, and you have nothing in the morning, and your glycogen levels are starting to deplete a little bit, you don't have the substrate to produce good high energy levels for a long period of time.
Yeah.
So you got to make sure you're getting the right food, and that's the nutrition that we're talking about as well. Yeah. So hopefully that is a nice little well-rounded information for you, Jess.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. Next question.
From Kayla. When can I stop lunging?
Never.
Never ever.
Never, ever, ever.
But why?
Oh, but why, sir?
But why can she never stop lunging?
Because she's improving. And why stop it if she's improving? No.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
No, we are going to stop lunging soon, though, for real. She's been working really hard on lunges. And the problem that we're actually having is because the bar sits on your shoulders for twice as long as a squat, right? If you've got to go 8 reps each leg as opposed to just 8 squats, she's been getting some upper trap issues where she's really tight. And I think she's normally very tight in the traps. So we are going to look for some alternatives there. Basically, we were doing the lunges is because I wanted to get that unilateral leg work with you. The squats have been improving out of sight for both Kayla and Grace. We have a question from Grace a little bit later. But they've been improving out of sight from where they started, which is awesome to see. But, just like everything, you want to make sure that everything's nice and even. And unilateral leg work like step-ups, like lunges, Bulgarian split squats, are all fantastic, supplementary exercises.
Helps you work out all those little imbalances.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also helps with like proprioception. Like, got to get your balance right. Like you can't, squat heavy if you're falling over. And not that other people will fall over when they squat.
Yeah,
but
it helps.
If you're doing lunge work, that's going to help with your squat as well.
Yeah.
But we are going to take some alternative exercises soon. So you're going to stop next week. We're going to change next week to different exercise. Cool. So I hope that helps, Kayla. Number 3. Guy says, why is everyone doing sumo for states?
Well, not everyone is doing sumo for states.
We have 9 people lifting in states. And how many people are doing sumo?
I am.
1 person, Guy. 1 person.
This is me.
So you shut your mouth, Guy. No? All right. It's 1 person.
I think everyone's talking about it now because it was such a dirty word to say sumo in this gym for such a long time.
It was not a dirty word.
It was a dirty word. Everyone loves to make fun of sumo and talk trash about it. Now that I'm actually doing it and a few other people, because I'm doing it now, I'm running a lot of my clients through it as well. And
who convinced you to do it, by the way?
I believe that you did.
Yeah, that's right. And I remember after 1 or 2 weeks, you're like, this is stupid. I'm not doing this stupid lift. It's terrible. I was like, just stick with it. You'll be good at sumo. And now he's pulling all-time PBs.
To answer Guy's question, 1 person.
1 person.
Which brings us to the next question, which is my question. Why is my sumo stronger than my conventional deadlift?
I'm not convinced that it is.
But it literally is.
No. Your sumo deadlift now is stronger than your conventional was back in November.
Yeah.
So you've not been pushing for heavy singles or heavy doubles or triples on conventional since then. You've switched over after your 1 month of volume straight into sumo for your whole strength phase. So
I was
I'm
still
not
doing
convinced.
In my volume phase. I was still doing heavy triples every single week.
Yes, triples. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And on the triples that I did recently, they felt so much easier.
Keep in mind, this is still 3 months ago.
Yeah.
This is still 3 months ago.
Still 3 months ago.
So what I'm saying
I feel
is,
like it feels easier to pull tough reps.
Right, because you're getting stronger, which happens when you strength train consistently with good structure, right? So what I'm saying is that one, I'm not entirely convinced that your sumo is stronger. It's feeling good, which is great. It looks solid when you do it. But I would be really interested in after states, after, let's say you take a week off, and then do just a couple weeks conventional and try to pull a really heavy conventional. I reckon it'll be pretty close. I
feel like I'm a lot stronger on sumo because squats, for example, right? That's been a pretty standard, consistent thing through the entire block of programming that I've been doing. My squats are only up a little bit on what they were before. So I'm not going to be getting massive increases. Like I got a 215 squat for a single. I'm not going to be smashing a 250 squat anytime soon, right? I don't think I'm going to be pushing that for states. But the improvement on my squats is still solid, just not that big. The improvement on my deadlifts is way bigger in comparison.
But you also had a much lower starting point for the sumos. So it feels astronomically bigger because you started pulling it like, 100, 120. So when you're doing a 220 for reps.
My squats and deadlifts were pretty much neck and neck for a really long time.
Conventionals, yes.
Since I started doing sumo, they've jumped out in front quite a bit.
Right, which is what you would tend to normally see. The other thing is that they might be stronger. Adrian doesn't have the longest of legs, right?
Don't.
Just facts here. Yep. I'm not saying anything that's good or bad. It's just is what it is.
That's what I wanted to touch on a little bit.
Is that proportion-wise?
Anthropometrically, like limb length, torso length, leg length, all that sort of stuff. How does that factor in?
Yeah, it does factor in. So, one, you're pulling the sumo less distance than what you would pull a conventional.
Yeah.
All right? You're a wider stance. I don't know how much less.
It was about 15, 20. I tried to measure it. It was quite a bit.
What, the bar height?
Where my hands were, I sat up against the wall and then I conventional and marked it out, and then I got into my sumo stance and marked it out roughly where it was, and it was quite a bit less.
Yeah. So you're pulling the bar less distance. Also, we know that Adrian does have a really good squat and is very sort of leg dominant.
Really good squat.
All right. Is very leg dominant, and a sumo position you are more upright, and it is probably more leg drive initially than your. I mean, obviously there's a lot of leg drive in a conventional too, but I feel like there's a lot of more lower back requirement in a conventional deadlift. There is still a huge amount of posterior chain, glutes, lower back required for a sumo.
I feel like my quads are a lot more worked up.
And so, so they might be giving them a little bit of an edge as well. And we can get into proportions and stuff. Basically, if you have a really long torso as well, they're actually quite well suited to sumo because a really long torso, your sumo stance is more upright. Not that you have a long torso, but if you do have a really long torso, try sumo. Because if you're really upright, or much more upright in a sumo position, if you've got this long lever between your lower back and where the bar weight is coming through, as opposed to conventional, if you have to stick your hips back more to be able to get down to the bar, you've got a much longer lever arm, so there's a lot more weight coming through your lower back. So you might actually prefer to try sumo if you've got a long torso. But yeah, I mean, like shorter legs, you're pulling it less far. Yeah, it would be interesting to see. But I would like you to try maybe to do a 1RM conventional a couple of weeks after states and just see how you can pull. Because I reckon it'll be pretty heavy stuff.
That'd be fun. I'd like to do that as well.
Yeah.
Just test it out once and for all.
Phil asks, what are your expansion plans? And I can tell you why he asked this, is because he doesn't want to drive to Joondalup. He would prefer me to open a gym in Osborne Park just like 5 minutes away from him as opposed to 20 minutes away from him on Saturday morning.
So I guess, when are we expanding to Osborne Park?
We are not anytime soon. Sorry to break your heart, Phil, because we're not at capacity here yet. So basically, my goal before thinking about opening a second gym location would be to really optimize this place. And this building here, I think would be really perfect with the equivalent of 3 full-time trainers. So I myself am already maxed out. Adrian's well on his way, 80-85% capacity. So we're closing in there. We'll be looking for a third trainer soon. But basically, we're going to be looking for 2 part-time trainers. And that way, with 2 part-time trainers, they can cover shifts for Adrian or myself or each other. And it's the equivalent of 3 full-time people in here. And with the extra clients that they would have and the extra members that would be there as a result of that, I think this gym would be at capacity. And once this gym is up at 100%, that's when I would be looking at expanding, because what do you do from here? It would either be a bigger premises or a second location. But you've got to keep in mind, Phil, is that even if I was to open up a second location, I wouldn't be there. I'd be here, and Adrian would be here, and we make this gym, big dog, all right? So just keep coming to Joondalup. You know you love it. Okay.
I mean, you got to go. You got to do what you got to do for greatness, Phil. It's not easy.
And if it's an extra 10 minutes down the freeway, it's worth it, Phil.
Anything worth doing is worth fighting for, Phil.
That's right, Phil.
Don't let your dreams be dreams.
That's it.
Other very standard inspirational quotes.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
Insert
next
here.
question. Next question. Keely asked, how and why do you program for clients? We had a bit of a conversation about that.
So why? Because they pay us to.
Yeah, that's one good one. But she mainly asked, like, how do we program for individual clients? So, for example, Big Gav walks in the door and then young Jake walks in the door. How do we program for them separately? That one all comes down to the individualization.
Can I just cut in really quickly? Because I feel like this is going to go for a little while.
Yeah.
And I just want to quickly touch on, you said Big Gavin walks in the door?
Yeah.
When Big Gavin first walked in the door?
Yeah.
All right. So, well, I got to, first of all, 6 months prior to Big Gavin walking in the door, we were doing a bit of strongman training, and this lady walks in with a young child, and she's like, oh, I do CrossFit down the road. Since then, she doesn't. She gave that up, and now she works out full-time at the Strength Institute, crushing all-time PBs because she's a legend.
Like every single
That's
month.
right.
Yeah.
She's like, my husband might really like this place. I'll get your info, and I'll get him to come in. 6 months later, Gav was a bit slow to pull the trigger. Anyway, he gives me a call, and it's down with a very polite, mild-mannered, man on the
polite?
Yeah, so polite on the phone. I was like, oh, this guy is going to come in. He's going to be just your standard run-of-the-mill. Anyway, he's like, oh, I'll come in at this time. I said, all right, perfect. And at that time comes, and all of a sudden, this frame, this giant refrigerator of a human being, blocks the sun as he walks through the front door. And I had my Emperor Palpatine moment where I was like, think of the power! Think of the power! There's like so much pure potential from Gavin. So that was my Gavin walking in the front door moment. But please, I'm going to reset this.
Doesn't know Big Gav. He's losing weight at the moment, and he's trying to get to 130. That's him losing weight.
But not fat. He's big and jacked, and he lifts 200 kilo bench press. He's strong. I'm going to reset this camera, and we're going to keep talking about Keely's.
All right, we'll get back to the question. Yes. All right, yeah, so get back to the question. How do we program and why? It just depends on the individual. It depends on the person and what they need or what they want. What they need and what they want, that kind of crosses over a lot. For example, if someone's coming from a very, very low base, never trained before, you start at a very, very low base and lay all the foundation down. Or if someone like Big Gav walks in and he's already strong and wants to get stronger, it just comes down to the type of programming. There are lots of different styles of programming that you can do. rep ranges, weights, intensities. It's immense. There's so much that you can do, but it really comes down to the person's individual goal. So whether they're injured and need some rehab work, they want to improve on their performance, and then you can go over performance specifics like mobility and even extra rehab work. Strength-based, I've had a couple of people who have already been training and come in, and just the style of programming that Nevin does and the way that we strength training here at the Strength Institute to help them get PBs. It just depends specifically on what that person is looking for. How do you choose?
Yeah, it's got to be goal based and where they're starting from. So if someone walks in the door and has never touched the weights before and is like, I want to be a bodybuilder, it's like, okay, great. Well, I can't just put you on stage. We've got to build that up, right? So how do we build you up? Let's get some hypertrophy in, and that's good because hypertrophy is usually lighter weights and more volume. But what you might find is they haven't got the experience to really isolate their muscles and contract the right muscles. And so you can't just go into high volume drop sets and supersets. Like, you've got to actually still lay a foundation for them, right? So really it is client dependent. Yeah.
It actually comes down to the crossover as what people want and what they need. A lot of people often want what they can't have right away, and they need to do something first. Like Keely, for example, actually, is a lot of people say, I'm hyperflexible. Keely is hyperflexible. I've never seen anyone's spine bend like hers. She's had the biggest issue that we've had over the last year is just generating and holding a shape to be able to lift weights. Could barely lift even like 3 kilo dumbbells she was dropping on bench press to start with. Now she's killing it. It's been a long journey, but she wanted to be stronger to start with and just couldn't. So we had to start really, really low, and it's taken a long while to work up to where she's at. And a lot of people like that, not quite like Keely, but like that, where they want something right away. But plateaus happen in all sorts of ways and areas, and the programming is to move past those plateaus. So whether you need to start and work on the foundation or regress someone might come in and be pretty strong, but they have bad habits or bad technique, or just they've been taught bad cues. Maybe you need to bring it way back and like work on the foundations again, and then go through a series of progressions. It really just depends on where the person's at and what they need to get to the next stage of their programming.
Yeah, 100%. And the next question from Fiona actually ties into that a little bit. It's like, how long is an effective peaking phase?
This one's an interesting one.
Yeah, and the question, the answer, Fiona, is we already talked about this. Depends.
Depends on what?
It depends on so many things. It depends on the person, how old they are. It depends on how experienced they are at lifting. Depends on how much they can actually lift. So there's a huge number of a lot of variables that go into it. A good example of this would be training elderly populations, right? So my dad's 74, turned 75. He turned 75 early next year, and he's going to be competing, in the powerlifting states this year.
Yep.
Next year he's going to be trying to have a crack at potentially a world record bench press for the 75 when he turns 75, right?
Yeah.
He fatigues incredibly quickly. He takes a long time to he warms up for an hour to get the body moving, right? And then we get through our exercises, and the sessions themselves might take 45 minutes, because anything over 45 minutes is too draining, right? Most of our sessions here are 45 an hour, but people can stay back longer, right, and do stuff. So let's say sessions last 45 minutes. We only will do, 2 main exercises and maybe 1 supplementary exercise. And when we're doing that, we very rarely are doing like heavy singles, doubles, triples, because it's too fatiguing. All right, we talked about this before. So there is no point in us doing a long peaking phase with Dad, because he'll just get shattered and then end up going to detraining and won't be able to perform at all, right? So for someone like that, and you see it a lot in like older populations, people in their 60s, 70s plus, they get fatigued quickly. So you need to do a lot more sort of general strength training, a bit of hypertrophy work in there where it's a bit lighter, again, general strength. And then you have a short strength specific and a short peaking phase, and that'll get them up. So for Dad, we're probably only going to do, a little 3-week peak where we're handling like the really heavy singles, like triples, doubles, and singles, because anything more than that, or and then you'd have a deload and then compete. But we're not going to even do like 2 months of that or 3 months of that, because it's just too much. You might find someone who is a lot, let's say mid-20s or 30s. They can lift a lot of weight. They have a really high capacity for workload. And yeah, you can really get a lot out of them, like doing heavy triples and doubles and singles and overloads for 4 weeks or 5 weeks, and then when you deload them, they're just monsters, fresh monsters, right?
I've never done like a peaking phase, a strength block like we did for the squat challenge. I've never trained quite like that before, and I got so much out of it. Like I said before, like I was talking trash when I thought I could get to 200, and then I got 215, which was huge. So
right.
I felt like as we got
and that pushed
lower
out
in the reps, like I got more and more and more out of it.
And that pushed out to 6 weeks, but it wasn't like a true peaking phase. And that's the thing as well, when you're talking about programming, all right, well, Fiona, you got general strength, which is like what we would call like when we're doing 5 sets of 5 and stuff like that, and then you have like strength specific. But in your general phase, you're getting lots of other exercises. So we're doing bench press, we're doing incline dumbbell bench, we're doing
all the accessories
and this and that. Then we have strength specific as we get a little closer to the comp. We might have 2 barbell versions or 3 barbell versions of bench press. We have a bench press and a spotted bench, or a block bench, or whatever it might be, and we might only have 1 dumbbell exercise, right? And we get to peaking, we want to be as specific as possible. So it is like just bench, lots of sets, or really high intensity for low reps leading into that competition phase. So generally, and again, it's going to be different for everyone, but anywhere between 3 and 6 weeks would be your strength specific / peaking.
So then what would you say if she says what is an effective, like how long is an effective peaking block?
I would say an effective peaking block.
The shortest, shortest, absolute longest.
I won't say that. What I will say is an effective peaking block is one that is long enough that your central nervous system is prepared to handle heavy weights.
Yep.
And it's not too long that you start to fatigue and go into detraining. And that's all you can say, because I can't say 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It's different for everyone.
And the only way
they're your things. Like you have to be able to perform at the end of your peaking block. Otherwise, you've gone too far or you haven't done enough. Yep. So they're the only 2 criteria to work within.
Yeah, I would totally agree.
Cool.
100%.
Perfect. Freaking Megan.
This is a fun one. So Megan says, how safe is a 14.9 kilogram cut in 5 weeks? Now, this is a very interesting question, Nevin.
Not that interesting.
Why would Megan ask such a question, Nevin?
I don't know, because she likes to stir the old pot, Adrian.
So, the reason why Megan asked this question is because Nevin is thick and decided that he didn't want to be too thick, and that he's going to lose weight for the GPC state powerlifting competition. Didn't like the numbers the people in the hundreds were pulling, so he's going down to...
Wasn't that?
The 90s.
It wasn't
just and so he's doing a healthier, a safer cut. Keep in mind that when we did the squat challenge, he lost 10 kilos in...
It was 9.8 kilos in 32 hours.
In 32 hours, which is insane and arguably...
And I would not recommend it.
Not healthy at all. And now he's doing a safer cut and only losing 14.9 kilos in 5 weeks.
It's not 14.9. This is, all right, let me clear up some misconceptions here, guys. First thing, I'm not running from the 100 kilo weight class. What was happening is I hadn't decided...
just too strong.
I hadn't decided whether I was doing 90 or 100. So I registered at 100, and I was going to see what my body weight was doing as I was floating around the 100 kilo mark at the time, all right? Strength was going up. It was great. My training was really focused, but I was eating junk. And I was like, I'm not driven to like eat well. So I know I can just stay at around this 100 mark. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to force myself to be better. I'm going to go down to the 90 kilo weight class. All right. So that's why I did it.
Here's the question I want to know.
Also,
how much?
Let me finish my story.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
The other thing that was taken into consideration was I've mentioned this before on podcasts, is that I'm a competitive person and I want to go out there and compete and do well. And to be totally honest, in the 100 kilo weight class, I was looking at the numbers, I'd be right in the middle. And it was huge. It's like over 20 people in the 100 kilo. It's the biggest one on the day. And I'd be in the middle. There's nothing wrong with being in the middle or being last or whatever, as long as you're working hard and you're getting good numbers, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But me going into the 100 kilo weight class, chunky, is like I'm doing myself a disservice because I know I can be a lean 90. If I want to be a lean 100, that's fine, but I'm not going to be able to get there by the time States comes around. So I was like, all right, I'd rather lose a bit of fat, be a lean 90, and do my best there. Also, in the 90 kilo weight class, I've got a much better chance of finishing top 3, top 4, top 5, right? I feel I would be more competitive there, and I'm not doing myself a disservice by carrying extra 8 kilos of fat. So yeah, that's why I decided to go down to 90. And it was not a 14.9 kilo weight cut.
How much was it? So how much are you actually losing and in how many weeks?
I started my weight cut.
Be honest now.
5 weeks out.
Yeah.
Okay. and it was not 14.9 kilos.
All right, but how much was it? Come on, be honest.
It's not that much.
How much was it?
It's not that much.
Are we going to play this? Okay, was it 10 kilos?
No.
Was it 11 kilos?
No, you're going the wrong direction.
Was it 12 kilos?
You're in the wrong direction.
How many kilos was it then?
Let me just say this.
Just answer the question.
I will say this. It was not 14.9 kilos.
All right, 9 kilos?
Anyhow, I'm doing it a much better way.
Why are you so
I'm going
apprehensive
to tell you this, is that my body weight will be within 3 or 4 kilos of 90 in the last week. Okay? That's a very small water cut then to do.
Interesting.
It's
so
a
how
much
much
safer way.
are you losing in the 5 weeks?
No, it was about 10 kilos. I'm weighing about 100, and these guys are like, you're looking thick, you're like 105. Right. Like, I'm not 105, I'm 100. But I'm less than that now. I did my first week of carnivore, right? Yeah. So I was like, all right, how am I going to lose weight 5 weeks, right? I've increased my activity a little bit. So I'm making sure I get 12,000 steps a day, every day. Mm-hmm. Didn't happen last night, went out for Easter dinner, ate a heap of food.
Yeah.
But apart from that setback, 12K steps every day, all right? So my activity levels are up. Do all your gym sessions. I'm doing that anyway, right? So I'm doing my gym. I'm doing my activity levels are increased. I am watching my food, so I am at a deficit, right? I'm not at a gigantor deficit compared to what I would normally eat. It is increased because of the extra activity, right? But I'm not starving myself. Like I'm not on ration-sized food.
Improvements for stats.
Yeah, I'm still getting a good amount of food in. It is just a deficit because I'm doing extra activity, right? Also, what is another good way to drop weight? If you go on a ketogenic diet, like a carnivore diet, where you're eating just meats and fats, you will drop and deplete all of your muscle glycogen and all of the water weight that is retained by that muscle glycogen, which it can be several kilos. Now, this is not fat mass. I'm not claiming that I'm going to drop several kilos of fat mass, but this is 1 week of carnivore in. I'm going to be weighing in on Monday, and I actually think I'm going to be down probably about 3.5 kilos in just 1 week, just from the carbohydrates and water retention and maybe a couple 100 grams of fat burn, right? So I'm well on the way. Feeling confident, feeling comfortable, comfortable in my body.
I think that's the answer there. Is it safe to cut a lot of weight? So let's say 10 to 15 kilos. Is it safe to cut that much in 5 weeks? If you're doing it properly, if you're still eating well, like it's performance-based. It's not starving. It's not eating and doing a buttload of exercise and losing. You can lose weight, a lot of weight, and quickly. It would be unsafe and unhealthy, but you can also do it safely.
But let's just say this, and 14.9 in 5 weeks, that's 3 kilos a week, right? Basically, which is a lot. So I would not recommend doing that. That's not what I'm planning on doing. Really, it was a 10 kilo cut in 5 weeks. So we're looking at 2 kilos a week with a water cut at the bottom of that. And again, it's not a giant water weight cut either. So if you're looking at most fat loss guides, they say you can very comfortably and very safely lose up to 1% of your body weight per week safely. So I'm 100, that's a kilo a week, very safely. So if I lose 1.2 a week and get down to 93, 94 and do a small water cut, I'm feeling very confident in that, okay? Again, I'm not a doctor. If you want to do a weight cut, go seek proper medical advice. Don't just listen to us.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
There you go. But it's not 14.9. Megan, thank you very much. This is coming from the lady. This is coming from Megan.
Well, don't get upset for questions.
I am getting upset because I'm not 14.9.
Don't get upset
look,
for questions.
Yeah, look.
You hurt his feelings, Megan. You hurt his feelings.
Is that Megan, for like the last 4 comps she's gone in, she's like, oh yeah, I'm really on weight. I'm focusing well, like everything is good. And then like 2 weeks before, she's like, oh, I'm like 3 kilos overweight. I'm like, you told me you're good. She's like, I wasn't checking. So then we had to like stress her. She assures me she's underweight for this. She's competing in 2 weeks' time at the WA Strongest Woman competition, and she assures me she's sitting like half a kilo or a kilo under her weight, which is good, I guess. So thanks a lot, Megan.
All
good
right,
question.
Well, next question. So now we've got
Grace.
Grace, you take this. Go.
Grace is also trying to troll me. This is back-to-back trolling. She goes, why does Nev load uneven weights in the squat bar? That was one time, Grace. It was one time.
That's all it takes, Nev. It's just one time.
We're moving on. I was distracted. I was distracted by how effective my programming has been for you, Grace, and seeing your numbers fly up so much. I was like, surely it can't be that much weight, and maybe that's why it was misloaded. All right? Sorry for making you so damn strong.
To be fair, that never happens.
What?
That you do that.
I don't misload weights.
Almost ever. And on top of that, he always catches me misloading weights as well.
That's right. And then miscounting them. And then just lying to his clients. Like, yeah, that's 200. It's like 220 on there.
If I'm lying to them and they're stronger, then everybody wins.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
It's the placebo effect.
Yeah.
All right. Then, next up, we've got
Laurie.
Yep. Laurie, your writing is terrible. It really is.
I was,
Were you amazed and delighted with Dad's shirt?
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know where he got this. I'm going to put a photo up right here.
Can you put a photo? It was a great shirt. I did not expect that when he came in this morning. It was great. Yeah, it was really good.
Yes, I was both surprised and delighted with that shirt, 100%. So, yeah, I am. It's good.
Maybe you could get Nev one, and he's never going to look
I
like
need
that,
one because when I get to 90, I'm going to be shred city. All right?
Sure.
You
Your
could
dad
bring
should
out
stand
laundry
next
on
to
my
each
abs,
other
right?
and
You
him
could
wearing
grate
the shirt.
cheese on these bad boys.
Why would you, though? That sounds gross.
It sounds unhygienic, but you could do it.
But
you could do it.
I would want to.
I don't know.
Anyways.
Reset. All right, so the next question is actually from Karen. And it is a complicated question. I jumped onto Google Scholar straight away and tried to find some articles that could cue me up. And basically it was, how do antidepressants, because a lot of people are on antidepressants, right? How do they affect your training? Because they can definitely, and it's been shown, increase body weight, right?
Yep.
People seem to increase their body weight when they're on antidepressants quite a lot. Does it affect? So that's obviously affecting their metabolism, or some sort of physiological effects. And does it also negatively affect strength gain? What's the deal with that? So I had a quick look on, and there's a lot of stuff out there, and a lot of it is sort of we couldn't get the controls for this, and we couldn't get good this, and we couldn't, so I was like, it's kind of hard to see, but
it's hard to do studies accurately like that, where they ask a series of questions, like if you're on antidepressants, then go do this X, Y, Z, but it's really hard to control what people also eat on top of that, if they look after themselves, if they're taking the medication regularly, if they're drinking, there's all this other stuff. So it's really just do take antidepressants, do you train? And there's just a whole bunch of other information that is really hard to keep accurate to make the studies accurate.
Yeah. And so basically the papers that I found, they were quite consistent in saying that antidepressants are usually followed with weight gain. Okay. And there was a whole bunch of reasons why that was. There's issues with glucose regulation and receptors being turned on and off, and they talk about how it affects different hormones and leptin and ghrelin and all this sort of stuff, your hunger hormones. Yep. And a lot of it is above my pay grade, so I can't really comment. But yeah, so basically it looks like a lot of antidepressants do cause or induce weight gain. All right. The best way to fight weight gain is, one, to make sure you're eating healthily, right? And two is to increase your activity levels, right? So we know that works, okay? Now, if someone is training and eating pretty well and they're not losing weight, well, that means they're not at a calorie deficit, because we know to lose weight, you have to be at a calorie deficit, right? So if you are not eating a heap of food and you're eating pretty healthily and you are working out and you're not dropping weight and you're on, medication, it has done something probably to your metabolism, right? So again, at this point, you'd really need to talk with your doctor, with a nutritionist, to find the best pathway forward on what that would be to get into a deficit or to overcome those physiological effects from the medication, okay? In terms of how does it affect your strength gains, I personally have trained people that are on antidepressants that have gotten quite strong. So I don't think that strength gains, at least in my experience, not anecdotally, I've seen the strength go up. I guess me saying it is anecdotally, but I've seen people that are on medication like that actually have really good strength gains. So I feel like that's not an issue. One thing that can affect strength and that can affect metabolism is stress, sleep, right? These sort of things. Some of the papers that I found did say that sleep was an issue on some of the medications. And again, it's a spectrum, guys, because some antidepressants are quite sedative. So they actually improve your sleep because you're knocked out. Some antidepressants, they really mess with your REM cycle. So those people get poor sleep. So again, it depends on what medication you're on. Again, this is something that you need to suss out with your doctors to make sure that you're getting the best medication for you to help with recovery, things like that.
That goes back to the question that we answered before about just general fatigue. So regardless of what you're doing in the gym, if you're just not sleeping for whatever reason, then you're just not going to get good results. Really, it plays a really good part a really important part in how you recover and then how well you do.
100%. You have to sleep. The other paper that I found, so there's 3 papers. The third paper that I found was looking at older populations. So again, it was over 60, it was 60s, 70s, and 80s. Older people with depression on antidepressants, and they did a 10-week training program. And they did it based off what's called a geriatric depression score. And I'm pretty sure that's just like a questionnaire, like a yes, no, are you this, that, right? And they go through that. And the training group, so they had a control group that didn't train, they had a training group. A few people from the training group after the training program self-reported on the geriatric depression score that they felt better. They had a decrease in depression symptoms, if that makes sense. So, I guess you can train on them as long as you've given the okay. They can mess with your metabolism a little bit. It doesn't seem that they would mess too much with your ability to get stronger. As long as you're training hard, try your best to get good sleep, get good nutrition, and hope that everything works out there. Okay? Cool. Perfect. That's all I could do on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. I actually don't know that much about
exactly. And so that's why I kept
antidepressants and strength.
prefacing it with saying, talk to your doctor, because if you're playing with medications and this and that, that's well over both of our pay grades.
If you're unsure, it's just always better to double check with your doctor.
100%.
All right.
And
then next, Kobe. What question did Kobe ask?
Kobe Beef.
This one to you as well.
Well, no, he asked here, so I just shorthanded it on the board there. He basically asked, at what point does max strength have, I'm going to pull out this, I can read it word for word because I can't remember with my shorthand. It's not that good.
And your writing is just terrible.
No, there's nothing wrong with the writing.
I sat down and read through all the questions earlier, and I could read like every third word. So bad.
Kobe asked, is there, and what is the point in which max strength, and his example was like a 1RM bench, stop benefiting endurance, so like max push-ups? All right. And this is interesting.
Question.
It is a good question.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's not as clean cut as that example. Right? So like, for example, a good example could be like, all right, we know that endurance athletes like runners, marathon runners, improve economy if they have a stronger power to weight ratio.
Yeah.
So if you get them squatting more, they don't put on a lot of weight, like body weight, but their legs are stronger, they can run better for a longer distance, right? Yeah. So we know that there's a great crossover there. Of course, there's going to be a point of diminishing returns. Like if a marathon runner is squatting a 1 times body weight and he then goes to a 1.5 times body weight, he's not going to improve his endurance run by 50%. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's not going to run the marathon in half the time, right? So there's a diminishing returns, but there is benefit to it, right?
Diminishing returns, and then you would get to a point where a marathon runner squatting 3 times body weight, central nervous system would be zapped. There's no point in pushing that hard. Then the run would actually be worse.
Correct. You get to the point where you'd have to focus so much on getting stronger to actually get, up to a 2 times, 2.5 times, 3 times body weight squat, and it would take away from the running training, right? If you're using a bench press into a max push-ups competition, again, it's hard because a max push-up is really not endurance. It's anaerobic, because what's going to happen is you're gonna burn out of like your phosphate creatine system. And
how long do you think that you could do push-ups for in a row? If you just started now, how many reps do you think you could get? That's 30 seconds, maybe a minute worth of push-ups. You wouldn't really be there for that long.
Right.
That's all anaerobic.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's obviously a small aerobic component because you'd be breathing heavily by the end. But, again, you'd be using a lot of your anaerobic system. So, first of all, Kobe, sort out your examples, all right? But I think if you wanted to use that example, it would come down to work capacity, right? So if you had a massive 1RM, like let's say your body weight, let's say you're 100 kilos and you could bench 200 kilos.
Okay.
It would be hugely beneficial to do max push-ups because you're talking about a short period of time, so let's say 30 seconds to a minute, right? Mm-hmm. Where you're just blitzing out and you're not even using the whole body weight when you do a push-up, right? So if you're then versing someone that is 100 kilos, they can only bench press 100 kilos, right? The 1-to-1 as opposed to a 2-to-1, that person would get destroyed by the person that's benching more. 200.
As always, 2 people with the same skill level, the stronger person will just win.
Usually always wins. Yeah, unless a wizard does something
magical.
I watched that movie 43.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, you bought beans from a homeless man. He was a wizard, Neil. He was a wizard.
Some people are just gifted.
Yeah.
Yeah, but let's not talk about those.
Yeah. So I would say it's kind of hard to say because it's going to be on a curving scale. Kobe, is that yes, 1RM strength is fantastic. It's really important for endurance.
I think it depends on what type of endurance.
It depends on what the event is.
Yeah.
It also there will be diminishing effects after a while, diminishing returns after a while, and if you go too far, there will even be detrimental effects. Right. So that's the best we can answer that one, Kobe. Yeah. Perfect.
As always,
that's a cool question, though. I like it.
And I hate to say it, strength is absolute.
Strength
if you're
is
stronger,
absolute.
you're usually just better off. Oh,
that's good.
All right. Anyways, before his head gets so big that it pops, Gav asked a really interesting question.
I actually, we're not going to answer that question. Sorry, everyone.
Why not?
Because I talked to Gav. It's too big a question. I want to do a whole podcast devoted to recovery methods and how effective they are.
Well,
because there's so much.
How and why do you guys recover? Like, what do you do for recovery, and how do you do it?
What's effective, and different tactics and methods.
Yeah.
And there's actually a huge amount of them. So I said, do you mind if we do this in a whole separate podcast?
Okay.
And he's like, no, that'd be great because there's a heap of recovery methods and everything from, like, again, we talked about it, sleep, supplementation, like nutrition, deloads in training programs. And then there's
a whole separate one.
Yeah. And then there's like a whole like active methods, like active recovery, cold water immersion, like hot, heat shock therapy. Like there's so much stuff we can talk about. So we're going to talk about that in a different podcast.
Awesome. That'd be interesting to go over actually, because I've been in different weight classes with different types of nutrition and getting different types of like massage and all sorts of stuff. So that'd be actually interesting to go anecdotally versus some science.
That's right. And the last questions are actually a three-peat question from Leo.
These are from the 8 that he asked. We had to take out the ones that weren't the ones that were PG. The R-rated ones had to go.
Yeah.
Leo.
How dare you?
But yes, he has 3 questions.
How dare you?
Did you have the button ready?
No, but I'm going to put it in.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you get an 8-pack? Question number 1. Hey, Nevin, how do you get an 8-pack?
Get less fat.
Yeah, but you can't just get less fat.
You got to train your abs and get leaner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to go with the whole... I know exactly what you're thinking as well. It's easy to just drop your body fat, but if you don't train weights, and if it's like let's say a runner, for example. Mm-hmm. You had a runner. Yeah. Someone who starts off and they have an excess of body fat, and then they just run all day, every day to lose their weight. Yeah. They will look very much the same, but just thinner. You get lean even, but unless you have the muscle mass, the chest, the abs, waist, legs, unless you have the muscle mass underneath all of that body fat, you just won't look great, really.
Yeah.
You need the physique, you need to train your body and then get lean.
100%. Now, here's the thing, though. Everyone has the muscles, right? Everyone has the muscles. So you have to be at a leanness level where you don't have adipose tissues, so that surface fat hiding the muscles, right? So that's step 1, is to get leaner, right? Step 2 is you need to get those muscles bigger, get some hypertrophy there. So you need to train. Now, obviously, when you're doing a lot of squatting and deadlifting, you're getting good core bracing strength. The 6-pack, 8-pack muscles, they're your rectus abdominis. They're the front ones. They're your crunching muscles. So
let's just talk about that real quick.
Yeah.
First of all, I just want to interject here. How do you get an 8-pack? Squat and deadlift.
Yeah.
What do you do for abs, Adrian? I got my body fat down for a little bit. But between like 6 and 10% body fat, you will have abs. You will have abs. Absolutely. What do I do for abs? A squat and a deadlift. People are, you don't get a strong core. Yes, you do. If you're squatting 200 kilos with the freaking bar on your back so that bar doesn't crush and kill you, you have to have a strong core. Lift heavy weights. That's what you should do for your abs.
Learn how to brace properly, lift heavy weights, and if you want to do a couple of little crunches on the side, I suppose it's not going to hurt. Get that rectus abdominis popping out a little bit more.
Exactly.
Right? But remember, Leo, I've said to you many times before, abs and I am cutting that out because that is totally inappropriate.
I was just going to say, so inappropriate. Oh, my God.
I might keep it in and just bleep out the second half. But, yeah.
Well, it depends on how you want to go with it. I don't know.
Well, we'll see.
We'll see. But remember, we'll see how that goes. Sure. All right, so on to the next question. Are protein or supplements really that necessary for training and muscle development?
And we've actually answered this not once, but twice now, Leo. Yeah. Thanks for listening and paying attention.
But what he said was, he knows that they work and they're effective, but he said for muscle development, almost specifically.
For training and muscle.
Are they that necessary? Yeah. Do you need them?
So here's the deal. And this is what I'm going to say. It is person dependent. For you, Leo, who doesn't eat enough food, yes, right? I've been telling him, Leo's been great. He's been getting stronger ever since he started training. He's been here, maybe 3 or 4 months now, 4 months maybe. He's been getting stronger and stronger. It's fantastic to see, but he doesn't eat enough food. And he's lean, and he's getting stronger, but he's like, he would get so much stronger if he ate more. I'm like, double your calories, man. You're not going to get fat. He's young. He's like 18. He burns through his calories. No problem. Double down. Eat as much as you can. You will get the strength gains. Like, you have all these gains waiting for you. It's like, what's that movie? It's like Troy. I'm just going on referencing Mayhem today when Brad Pitt's like, immortality, it's there, it's yours, take it, right? It's like strength gains, they're there. Leo, go eat some food.
And the more food you eat, the more muscle you put on, the more things you have in your body to burn body fat. So it's kind of like a linear progression. You won't just all of a sudden
feedback loop.
You won't just all of a sudden get fat. Eat more, build more muscle, burn more fat.
Right.
It's that easy. And you're so young.
That's right.
You can just eat whatever the hell you want, as much as you want, and just stay lean.
Right. But if Leo refuses to eat all the steak and all the pizzas and everything and anything that he can want to eat,
in lieu
then
of that,
at least just smash some protein powder and yogurt and fruit in there so that you get a high calorie drink in.
Even weight gain supplements, they're just chocked full of like pre-digested glucose, just calories. If you can't eat enough food, but you can drink a shake, just the more things you put in your body that'll help you put on weight. If you're talking about strength, absolutely it'll help.
Yeah.
But for the most part, if you have a good, wholesome diet, you don't need
right. And again,
extra.
we're talking about those 1%ers. So like if you're looking at all the guys on stage at Mr. Olympia, yeah, they all take supplements. Every single one of them. It's super important.
Yeah.
Leo, you're not competing for Mr. Olympia. You're not trying to break a world record in powerlifting. So are they super important for you? No, but they might help to get you some extra calories in, which will improve your performance. So it's really a cost benefit, benefit way off, really.
Yeah.
Is the cost of buying the supplements worth what you're going to get in return, which is going to be stronger, right? And again, for you, just eat more food. So yes, somewhat important.
Depends.
Yeah.
All right. And then
the last one.
Again, Leo.
Yeah.
Bar leaving legs deadlift.
Yes.
This one I wasn't too sure on.
Yeah, because basically Leo has been training, and to start him off, I got him squatting, but I just put him on the hex bar, the trap bar deadlift.
Yep.
Just because it's a really great tool for people that are learning how to deadlift and hold his shape. And now
so
he's actually
just switched him to.
Yes, I just switched him to conventional this week. So basically, we put that good work in like learning how to hold your shape, keep tension, and his strength went up quite a bit. You know, he was struggling to get 65 when he first started. He's doing 150 when he finished, right? So strength's gone up fantastic. All right, you can squat a reasonable amount. You can hex trap bar really well. We'll get you onto conventional deadlifts now. And so we did that, and what we found was we started quite light, and just to make sure we got the technique right, because it is different, right? The weight's in front of you now as opposed to your hands being on the side. So what tends to happen is if you can't hold your shape and can't engage certain muscles, which we're going to talk about in a second, is that bar drifts away from you. And as we all know, people that have deadlifted, when that bar drifts away from you, it gets exponentially harder to finish that lift.
It's biomechanics and lever systems. The path of least resistance is straight up and down. If you let the bar drift away from you, every centimeter that bar drifts away, it gets heavier.
Right. It literally gets heavier because it's a further distance from the pivot point, which is your lower back. It's called a lever arm. So if the weight is here and your lower back is here, this is your lever arm. If you're not watching on YouTube, switch across. You see my hands here. But if the bar drifts away, that lever arm is further. There's more weight in your lower back. It's much harder. So the best way to stop the bar from leaving your legs is to switch your lats on and pull that bar back into your legs, which we're going to talk about. There's a little bit of external rotation through the rotator cuffs in the shoulders, and we're going to try to squeeze the lats. We're puffing the chest up, engaging your back. You're also using your middle traps, using a little bit of rhomboids to pull that bar back into your body.
So is he asking why the bar has to stay on your legs?
He's saying, how do you stop it from leaving your legs?
How do you stop it from leaving your legs?
Yes, that's why, because the weight's in front of you. Mm-hmm. So why it's leaving your legs is because you're not bracing in a correct position and using those muscles to hold everything tight. Is probably your hips are rising a little bit first. If your hips rise first and you're not bracing, that bar's just going to float away from you. So like that.
Biomechanics.
Gone. So we're going to talk about that a bit more in training session, but Leo. But basically, we've got to work on your breathing, bracing. We've got to work on engaging the correct muscles through your back and shoulders to keep that bar in nice and tight. But it will get there, and you'll be getting some big deadlifts soon, I'm sure.
As long as you eat enough.
That's it. Eat more food. Eat everything, Leo. You can eat so much food right now.
Ben's just jealous because he has to lose so much weight.
I'm still eating food. It's all good. Anyhow, guys, that is question time number 3. I hope you all enjoyed it. Please leave us a like, subscribe, share. Tell us to. And you know what? How you doing, ladies? We have more lady listeners now, but I'm checking the analytics. We're up from 2.3% to 3%, ladies.
Oh, that's like at least 1.2 women. Yay!
so
make sure
I'm
you
glad
like
you're
and
all enjoying
subscribe.
it.
And we really do enjoy these Q&A podcasts. So leave us a whole bunch of comments. Tell us what you want us to answer in the next Q&A podcast. And if we get enough questions, we'll do these more often.
Absolutely.
Which I would like to do. I really like it.
Yeah, they are fun.
Yeah.
Anyhow, that's good, guys. We'll see you next time. Catch you all later.
Happy Easter, everybody.
Happy Easter.
And we'll see you next time
Cool.
on The Big Flex.
Adios.